Hello and welcome to the webinar. I am Jeff Barenwald. I'm the Marketing Director here at Apex, and we're going to be talking about building Salesforce forms with FormAssembly today. If you guys have questions or any technical issues during the webinar, feel free to reach out to me through the GoToMeeting interface. If you have any questions, we'll try to get those answered during the show, or if not, we'll get them all answered at the end of the show. I'm joined today by a few of my colleagues and member of the FormAssembly team from Apex, Jill Montera and Matt Grinder on the call. And then from FormAssembly, we're joined by Drew Bushhorn. As always, you can find out about future webinar topics by following us on our blog at apex.com/signup, and you can follow us on Twitter at APP_X. Without further ado, I will turn it over to the team.
All right, great. Thank you, Jeff. This is Jill Montera from the Apex team, and I will go ahead and get us kicked off this morning. A few things we're going to cover today between Matt, Drew, and myself. First off, we're going to go over just a quick overview of FormAssembly and give you an idea of what it is. It is a third-party tool that has been created by the FormAssembly team and a tool that we have started to use at Apex for some of our client needs. From there, we'll talk a little bit about some of the potential uses for FormAssembly and how we've seen clients of different types find value through the forms. We'll talk a little bit about the benefits of FormAssembly as well as best practices if you're considering using a tool like this or using FormAssembly. And then Matt will walk us through a demo. We've got a quick demo org to show you an example use case of how easy it is to create the forms. And from there, we'll leave some time at the end to go through any questions. So as Jeff mentioned, please use the question format on GoToMeeting and let us know any questions you might have, and we'll address those at the end of the call. All right, I'll go ahead and turn it over now to Drew and let him take us through the overview of FormAssembly.
Hi, guys. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, sounds great, Drew.
Okay. I'm Drew Bushhorn from FormAssembly. I've been with the FormAssembly team for, pretty much since the beginning, overseeing a lot of the infrastructure type things. Normally you'd have Hillary, who is a little bit more with the customer engagement, giving you a perhaps more sparkly overview than I can, but she was called away for an emergency, so I'm going to step in today. We're a web form management solution that was started in 2006. We're a fairly small team based in Indiana. We've got about 10 people, and I think we're doing a lot of good work for people through Salesforce and other platforms. Next slide, please. We're an independent company unrelated to Salesforce, but we are a certified Salesforce partner, an Aloha app and that sort of thing. And we work with many of their customers to ease business processes and collect data more efficiently. Our customers include many Fortune 500 companies like Disney, PayPal, Amazon, as well as even more small businesses and nonprofits who use FormAssembly for things like, next slide please, lead acquisition forms, IT requests, payment reimbursement forms, forms requesting things like PCI compliance certification details, as well as public-facing forms like simple contact forms, collecting leads, contact information, that sort of thing to go into Salesforce, online applications, lead acquisition forms, payment and registration forms using many different payment providers. And all of these forms send data directly to Salesforce, into Salesforce objects that you design. Next slide, please. Our customers choose to use FormAssembly because it empowers anyone in their organization to build powerful forms without needing to bother the IT department. There's no coding required. We help you free up time and resources. No more worry about double entry of data or things getting confused as you move from a paper-based form to data in Salesforce. And most importantly, you can do it without compromising the safety and privacy of your data. We do audits on the security of the application. We protect from hackers. We do confidentiality agreements for your legal department, as well as basic things like backing up, making sure SSL certificates are up to date and that sort of thing to keep everything tip-top according to the browsers. In just a few minutes, Matt will show you FormAssembly's web builder and Salesforce integration in action so you can see how easy it is to set it up. Next slide, please. But for the moment, I want to show you a few of my favorite features of FormAssembly. We have a friendly form builder, which has a drag-and-drop interface with lots of features. So you can easily drag question fields into a form. You can easily add file uploads, add calculated fields, which can take previous input and generate new options to show to customers. That's also what the conditional fields are. And add smart processing options with formulas, which allow you to do creative things like decide which person should be notified when a form is completed and that sort of thing, in addition to sending it over to Salesforce. Next slide, please. In addition, we have our branding and customization options that make it easy to help keep your visual identity with the forms without having to worry about actually having the forms embedded inside your corporate structure. Our do-it-yourself theme editor can change the look and feel of the form to match your current forms or to improve on the current forms that you have with your organization. It's easy to create specific event themes for groups of forms or themes by department, so that, for example, all of your sales department information can be very streamlined, whereas things that are customer-facing can be more colorful and have more graphics. Next slide, please. We also have many friendly enterprise features, like translating the form messages into over 30 languages, creating workflows, which are a series of forms, one after the other, that users can complete in a specified format. Form authentication, which is to say protect your form behind requiring users to log in through Salesforce or an internal LDAP system. And so with FormAssembly, you can create custom online forms, safely collect the data, and integrate with other solutions to make everyone's lives quicker and easier when completing the forms and building them. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the team.
Great, thank you, Drew. Appreciate the great overview. And again, we'll give everybody a chance to actually see the tool in action here shortly.
Okay, I'm going to mute myself until you guys are ready for me again.
Okay, sounds great. The next piece we wanted to talk through is actually going through some of the potential uses we've started to see from our clients. So we've laid out for 3 different client types that we have a few of the options we've started to see. So in particular for our fund managers, we have started to see interest and use when our fund manager clients that do direct investing have started to request, let's say, quarterly financial metrics from each of their operating companies. FormAssembly has been a great tool for them to start to gather some of this information and have it input directly into Salesforce. And this happens to actually be the demo that we'll walk you through today. From our institutional investor side of the house, many of these folks have a large inflow of potential GPs that are interested in their investment dollars. And so we've had a few of our clients start to use FormAssembly where they use a form like this, and it allows new fund managers to submit basic information about who they are and the funds that they offer, as well as even attach some documentation so that the institutional investor can read up on the fund manager and make an assessment about next steps. And then lastly, for our impact investors, for our impact investor clients, perhaps when they are giving out grant dollars, we've seen FormAssembly be a really nice option, so that, let's say, 1,000 or 2,000 potential grantees are vying for those dollars and applying, if you will. FormAssembly can be a great way for them to capture the basic information and then also, again, attach basic information about their application, whether that be resumes or grant request documents, and all of it goes seamlessly right into Salesforce. In general, some of the benefits that we've seen and why we've liked the tool so much, and Drew hit on these a little bit as well, but in general, it does allow us to get to multiple objects, meaning that multiple tables of data within Salesforce. So if you have data and you're wanting to capture accounts, related contacts, and let's say funds, the system can do that, or accounts, contacts, and deals, you can input data to multiple objects all at one time. The second piece is that it has been very easy for both the creation and modification of the forms. We've had a few clients that have requested that we do this for them, but also a few other clients who have started to do this on their own. And it is very easy for them to go ahead and create and modify. In addition, as Drew mentioned, a developer or IT resource is not required. It's a really nice user interface, very intuitive for an end user to create if they're interested. Aesthetically, I think it also is a very nice feature. You can create the forms and embed those forms directly into your website, so the branding still looks very familiar to your existing website, and the form is now just embedded within. And then the last piece is the low yearly cost. And Drew can probably talk to this a little bit more, but for a few users that are just getting one license for their organization, it's $39 for the month. And so for under $500 a year, clients can go ahead and have this tool and be able to create these forms. And again, from a pricing perspective, there are a few different options, but that's the one that we've had the most clients use thus far. In general, with best practices, a couple things just to talk about if you are interested in starting to create forms. The first off is certainly to identify what it is that you want to collect, why you want to collect, and how often. Whether you're creating the form or we're helping you build the form, it's helpful for us to understand what that looks like, because there might be some changes to the design of the form that we might make, but it's helpful to understand the end result before we start building. The second piece is that we've had many clients, and I know Drew can speak to this as well, who actually have better success to truly map the form out almost on paper and do a design there so they truly can understand what the end user will see. And that's true of whether the fields are text forms or radio buttons, pick lists, what have you. The third piece in general for form assembly is just to experiment. I think you'll find that it is very easy and intuitive, and it's easy just to jump in and start to learn the tool by actually playing with and experimenting with the tools. Because it is a flat cost, it doesn't matter the number of forms that you create, so go ahead and just experiment and play with the tool. And then the last piece is to designate a power user. We have found, as with many things in technology, having that primary power user that can quickly create the forms and modify the forms can be very helpful. And again, from the Apex perspective, we're always happy to help. If it's a consulting engagement and you're interested in having us help you create it, we can do that, but also would encourage clients to think about creating this for themselves because it's fairly easy. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Matt now to actually walk us through the forms. We're going to take a look at the actual tool, FormAssembly. We'll then see how the data gets submitted into Salesforce and what it looks like within Salesforce, and then we'll go back to FormAssembly and make a modification there to show you how easy it is to change the system.
Thanks, Jill. So as Jill touched upon in this demo, I'm going to be a fund manager who has invested directly in an operating company, and we're requesting quarterly metrics to be provided by that operating company. So here's my FormAssembly account. I'm logged in. This is the test form that I've created. You can have a number of test forms, a number of forms in here. I don't know what the limit is, but it's quite extensive. So if you have different forms you want to have available, you can host them all right here.
There's actually no limit.
Oh, there's no limit. Okay.
Nope.
Great.
Every account can have an unlimited number of forms.
Excellent. All right. So the first thing I'll show is the actual form builder. So I've prepared this prior to the call, but as you can see, you can insert images, various field types, and as Drew had mentioned, there's no developer or programming skills needed. It's all drag and drop and very easy to actually manipulate. As you can see, if you want another field, it's that easy to add. But I have this built out right now, so I'm going to now show the connector. So you're probably wondering how this actually maps with Salesforce. So you have a connection, FormAssembly. There are other connectors other than just Salesforce, so those are other options to explore. Right now, we're just going to talk about the Salesforce connector. So here you can see this is the important one. We're creating a new metric. So this is just the API name of Salesforce calls our metric object. And you are mapping your Salesforce fields with the name of the fields you have on your web form. So if I wanted to create a new field on the web form, I would just select it, the web form name over here, and map it to, these are all the fields that exist on the metric object. And these, if you want a new field created, you create it in Salesforce, refresh this list here, and then you would be good to go. So now what I'm going to show you is how the web form actually looks to the user. So in this case, it's the operating company. They're getting ready to submit their metric data for June 30th. And I believe Jill mentioned that right now this is just the URL that's hosted by FormAssembly, but you can embed it in your own website and have that branded URL. So I'm going to submit this data. And you can customize this response as well. So now I'm connected to EC Capital. I'm on the Addison Systems webpage, which is the account or the operating company who just submitted the metrics. And you can see they've submitted the past 3 quarters. So if I refresh this page, we're going to see 630 now show up. And that's all the information that I provided and mapped on the web form. And there are two cool things about this in terms of tracking the information that's been entered. So if I go back to FormAssembly and just this test form, you can see that there have been 4 responses the previous 4 quarters. So you can look at the response. And this is the one that I just submitted with the effective date, 6/30/2014. And you can see a summary of all the information that was provided, exactly how the user entered it. And also you have this information down here saying that it was associated to this record ID, which is Addison Systems, and a new record was created, a new metric record was created. And you can see this is going to take us right back here to the 630 metric. Another thing that we can do to actually track web submissions in Salesforce is create a report. So I'm going to show, actually, now if I go back to the connectors, I didn't cover this earlier, but right here I have a formula field. So what I did on metrics was create a web submission field, and it's a pick list, yes or no, but it actually doesn't show up anywhere on metrics. It's hidden, but and it also, the user of the web form doesn't have to submit yes or no. You don't want the user to actually see that, but the formula defaults as yes. So anything that's submitted through this web form will automatically have this field as yes. And then what we can do in Salesforce, I created a report called metric web submissions, and I have a filter on web submissions equals yes. And you can see that all 4 of the quarters where the operating company Addison Systems submitted metrics through that web form show up on this report. So that's an easy way to track what the respondee has actually submitted.
One idea there as well is that you could actually set up some sort of approval or even the ability to change that field. So maybe it's web submission yes, and then maybe once someone on your team approves those metrics or whatever is submitted, you then change that field to a different value so that you've reviewed the metrics and approved them.
Yeah, and I think that that covers the demo. If anyone has any questions, we're I guess ready to answer them.
Sure. Yeah, I think again, please go ahead and use the questions box on GoToMeeting. But would love to hear from you what questions you have, and Jeff can help facilitate that and let us know. Looks like a couple questions are starting to roll in now. So we've got the first one. Can we be notified when a form is filled out?
Jeff, would you like me to take that one, or would you like to take it?
Yeah, Drew, why don't you go ahead and take that?
Okay. Jeff, if you can go back to the, so there are two ways you could be notified when a form is filled out. One, since a lot of you guys are more Salesforce heavy, you can use your standard triggers and all of that sort of thing. But in FormAssembly itself, if you go to Edit, Configure, I can request keyboard mouse control, I guess, but Notifications. Yeah, go over to the Notifications tab for me there. So you can see here, we just kind of put a laundry list of things in here. One of them is the acknowledgments page, which controls what the user sees when they submit the form. But then email your notifications down here. So that controls who gets emailed when the form is completed. And you can customize the template that's sent, although the default one is pretty good. It provides a summary of the email, a summary of the data that was submitted in the form, and you just designate the user. You can also actually configure your forms to fire off a quick, thank you for completing this form to users if they enter in a email into the form.
And actually, so it is connected to my email address right now, so I have been getting all these submissions that have come in. So it looks like it just gives a brief summary of everything that's been entered directly to my email address.
And all of that is, of course, customizable. You can turn it off completely if you're collecting, information that's too sensitive to fire off through email, or choose just a few portions of it to include in the email. Pretty much whatever you want to do there. And then, like I said, of course, once it gets over to Salesforce, you can do anything in Salesforce that you would normally do with a Salesforce object, like fire off an email that it's been, fire off a trigger that it's been received.
Okay, great. All right, our next question, does each account get a customized URL? If yes, can we mass send from Salesforce instead of sending one by one? I think that might mean a customized URL. Is that, it might be from a security perspective. I don't know, Drew, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
So every form gets a unique ID, all of which can be accessed from www.tfaforms.com/the ID of the form. And those IDs are sequential in our database, so they're not what you would consider hidden in any sense. That being said, there's no problem with using this to mass send from Salesforce, because what you can do is you can take a URL like that and then build a link in Salesforce that pre-fills additional information, like, say, a contact ID or a lead ID. That will then go into the form itself, and you can use that in the Salesforce connector to grab the record you're interested in and associate things. And so that value is created using the Salesforce's mail template system. I don't know how familiar you guys with that, but that's probably a whole different call to go into. But their system where you can put in aliases to represent contact IDs and that sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah, I'll try to decipher that for our clients on the call. Basically, what that would allow us to do is that, let's say it was each of your operating companies, and you wanted them to each have a unique URL, and that URL would have some code written into it that would allow some of the fields to pre-populate. So things like the account name, if you wanted that to come through, what Drew is saying is that we could create those fields within Salesforce, and the URL would be there, and then we could work with you on how to actually do a mass email and pull the unique URL per client. So yeah, great information. I'm happy to go into more detail if anybody wants to hear more about that after the call.
Which I think also, if I can just pop over here for a second, is related to the other question we got. Can FormAssembly be used to have people update their own information in Salesforce? The same basic concept works there as well, where you can embed information from like a Salesforce email to them, and they can use that to start a form.
Okay, great, great, super.
And we have more information about that on our website, so I can send that over to Jill, and she can pass it along to those of you who are interested.
Sure. Okay, that would be great, Drew. We can send that out. We'll send out the link to the recording. That would be great. Okay, second question. Can you confirm that duplicate accounts are not being created? For example, if a manager fills out a form using a slightly different name than already exists in Salesforce, will that generate a new account, or could the user somehow verify the data before it's automatically uploaded? Okay, yeah, Drew, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Unfortunately, that one has been a bit of a bear. We've done our level best to try to make it a little bit cleaner in dealing with deduping, but I think the fact that if you look at the AppExchange, how many deduping applications there are for Salesforce shows the challenge of the problem. So right now, in our connector, we have the ability to look up and update objects. And so if a person provides information and you configure the Salesforce connector in FormAssembly to look up based off that information, if it can find the record, it will use that and update that record instead of creating a new one. Unfortunately, with the example the viewer mentioned, when they enter in a slightly different name, so if their name's, Richard Alpert, and they instead enter in, say, Dick Alpert, that's not going to match in Salesforce, and because Salesforce can't find it, we'll create a new record if you're configured to create a new record in that situation. And then it has to be deduped on the Salesforce side.
Okay. Yeah, so I think there could be some manual ways around that. I think one, if it were the operating companies, you could do that. And the other piece, as we mentioned, is with some of those custom URLs that could automatically pull that. Do you want to show something else, Matt?
No, I was just going to say using FormAssembly in conjunction with, actually monitoring like a report could definitely help.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think, Drew, if we understand correctly, FormAssembly does have the ability then to go and leverage some of the lookups to see if the data is, I guess, or you just need to enter it in exactly as it is in Salesforce. Is that correct?
You need to enter it in exactly as it is in Salesforce. Frequently for that sort of thing, what we say instead is for you to, use like the email system like we were talking about, where you rely on Salesforce IDs rather than trying to have customers enter in the name, because it's shocking how many people can't enter in their own name, or how many times, you might have Mike Johnson in a company, in a large company.
Okay.
So.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you for confirming that. Okay, next question. Does AppEx do this work, or do we have to do it for ourselves? So Matt, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think we could certainly do it for you, but what I've noticed just in doing research with this, with FormAssembly, is that it's really intuitive and easy to use. So depending on your level of comfort with using the tool, we could train you, or we could help build it out. So I guess it is, as I was saying, easy enough to use. Like if you want to add a new field, like you decide you want to actually be tracking net income. I mean, this is easy. I mean, net income is our new field. Done. Save that. And then you would just go in here and in the connector actually map the new net income field. So this is net income in Salesforce, and you're mapping it to net income right there. And that's pretty much it. So maybe with the basic setup and training, AppEx could definitely help out. And then depending on your level of comfort, if you want to make one-off changes, I think it's easy enough to take that over.
And I think general timing. I think for the most part, it can be as few as, let's say, 2 to 4 hours to have the form created and up and running. And so it is a fairly quick process for you or for us if you want to use Apex services for that. All right, let me see if we have any more questions from the group. I think that I think that addresses everything. So again, we would love to continue to answer questions. If you want to run some ideas by us to see what might, if a certain idea you have for FormAssembly might be a good fit for your organization. Our entire support team is happy to take that. Matt has certainly been our resident expert here at Apex, and so happy to have those conversations with you. Feel free to reach out to our account management team and our support line, or submit something to support@apex.com, and we'll get back with you, and would love to have those conversations. So thanks to everybody for joining our call for today. We appreciate your time, and again, as Jeff mentioned, make sure to join the blog post so that you continue to get updates on our regular webinar series to learn about other advancements within Salesforce, as well as other products like FormAssembly. Thank you, everyone.